Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of Stacks of Questions. Hopefully you are now all at the stage where it is study leave, you are seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, or you're there and you're ready to start talking about some new stuff. So the team and I this week have decided that we've kind of moved on from looking at exam revision techniques. We're moving on for preparing for the assignment, and we're going to start to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that you guys are often talking about or thinking about over that kind of study leave or less stressful period of the year. So I'm here tonight with Morag and Colin, and we've got our esteemed guest, which we'll introduce in just a second. But before that, let's have a little look at what Morag and Colin's challenge is going to be this week. So this week's challenge is called the Bug Interpreter. And what their job is to do is to rewrite 3 confusing error messages into crystal clear, student-friendly language that's going to help pupils develop independent debugging skills. Because I think that if any of you in that last few weeks have been looking at the assignment, you're probably feeling as frustrated as what I was, and that the kids, it doesn't matter how many times you tell them or you help them to try and be independent, bugs are something that really can trip them up, especially when they're in big tasks like the assignment. So I suppose that we should decide which of you are going to do which unit. So I think, Morag, you last time got to pick first, so should we do Colin first this time?
Absolutely, yeah. Go for it, Colin.
So Colin, to pick your unit, which card would you like to flip?
Can I have green, please?
You'll go for the green card, okay. Here you go. So you're going to be doing database design and development, which means, Morag, you're going to be doing the pink card, which is software design and development. We didn't put web in there because obviously you don't really get a lot of error messages back for that. So hopefully you guys can have a little think about what packages maybe you use, because obviously with software you've got choices, Morag, between Python or Visual Basic, whatever you're more comfortable with. Again, Colin, you might want to think about Access, feedback, or maybe MySQL. So we'll leave that in your capable hands. We'll start the timer and you guys can get started with your challenge. So joining us this week, we have got a fantastic guest. This is Debbie Kennedy. She's a teacher of computing science at St Kent's, but also you do work for the STACS Advanced Higher team. And you also have worked very closely with the SQA, Advanced Higher Writing and Advanced Higher Marking for projects and things. Is that right, Debbie?
That is, yes. I've just seen that service 28 years. We need to change that. That's far too long.
That's not far too long. It just shows a woman of experience. So very pleased to have you on tonight. So what do we wanted to really talk about, Debbie? Because you've obviously got a very specific, I think, area of expertise, because not only, you teach a really big advanced higher class in St Kent yourself, but you're actually what do you call it, the West Lothian Academy teacher, is that right?
Yeah, so it's the academy. So that's the pupils that need to be taught remotely. So I teach them as well. So we've got 18 at St Kent's this year. Mm-hmm. And I think we're sitting at 14 in the academy. So
fantastic. And you teach all of them, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, that's a really big job. I'm struggling with my 9 this year.
All those projects.
I know. Well done to you. So really what I wanted to focus on tonight was progression. So we're at the time of the year where, we're on study leave. We're thinking about, we're planning our courses for next year. We've maybe started to get in, course choices, and kids have maybe picked advanced higher. And I suppose what we want to think about is what main skills and stuff like that the kids were going to have as we move on. So the first question I wanted to really ask you was, if a kid is coming to you and saying, look, I really want to take advanced higher next year, do you have a strict sort of set of requirements that they have to have or not have before you'll tick the box and say, yes, you can do it?
It's kind of a hard one, that one, because you want the children, when they come into, at advanced higher level, you've got that power knowledge that you've got to get. So it's easy to just say they need to have an A or a B, and then do the advanced higher. And that is, of course, ideal. Again, because of that deeper level of problem solving and the independence as well with the project. But that being said, if there's a student that's coming in and they are motivated and they are good at independent learning, they might have achieved a lower grade, but you would want to have that conversation with the student. You want to have that wee chat. How best can you support them going forward? And maybe you can. We have had children in the past who've got C's at higher and they've been successful at advanced higher. And we've also had pupils who've not been successful. So it really comes down to them and whether or not they're confident programmers, whether or not they've got resilience when they're tackling complex problems. You know this, Kim, you know that the Advanced Higher course, it involves developing this substantial project.
Mm-hmm.
You know how big that is, and it requires learners to plan, they need to design, they need to evaluate their own solution. So they need to be very comfortable working independently.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we're really thinking about mostly A's or B's, but for the odd kid, if you know them well enough and they've obviously definitely done higher of some kind, then potentially you would consider them. Great, okay. And what about then when we think about like the units at National 5 or higher, do you have a preference as to whether they've done web or databases? I'm guessing because you're teaching kids across schools, you might find that actually some of them have done different units. How do you, how does that work?
So I teach databases, but that's because I specialised in databases. I did Oracle Academy, and when I was a previous life, I was a programmer as a database developer. Okay. So I prefer, however, I have taught web up to Advanced Higher. The reason that I prefer personally teaching databases is because they give much better error messages. Because you made that wee comment earlier, and I had a wee grin because I knew what I was thinking about saying here tonight. So when you do web at Advanced Higher, you've got multiple pages, you've got HTML, you've got CSS, you've got PHP, and you've got your SQL embedded in there as well. Now, that's a lot of places where you can have things going wrong. When you're doing software and databases, it's, unless you're doing object-oriented, the code's all in one big file. So I think the error messages that you get there lend themselves better for pupils being able to solve, debug. But what you were saying there about me teaching the virtual campus children, the majority of them this year have been studying web. So at the moment, I've got some pupils with web, I've got some pupils with databases. They get a choice. I think it's important at Advanced Higher, if you can offer them a choice, you give them a choice, because you want them to enjoy what they're doing. And they might, they might have a real affinity to web, and I don't want to hold them back from that.
Yeah.
So what I do is every week I make videos. So today I was working with the database people. We're just finishing off the database theory. We're finishing off creates and drops and all that stuff. And what I had was videos, and I had questions put out for the web people. So they'll go and watch the videos, they'll do the questions, and what we do is we rotate that every week.
Okay.
Just again, I teach what I've specialised in, and I think that's more important. If you specialise in web, your love for web would come across to the pupils, and that's the best one, I think, to teach.
Yeah. I think it was interesting though, because mine are on a much smaller scale, but I also I've got 9 pupils doing Advanced Higher, but 2 of them don't belong to my school, and they're from different schools, both singularly, and both of them did web last year. And it's interesting to see I would say they're very, very different. One of them has struggled a bit more, one of them's taken it to a duck to water, and I think that they've actually all decided to do software projects with a database backend, and they've picked up the database a lot better than I thought they would, because it's really only once you get past the create statement and stuff, it's a lot more like National 5 than it is compared to some of the complex, stuff that is. So I think that it's interesting, actually, and I think you're right. It's really important that the kids pick what their preference is, as long as you've got enough ability to help them.
You just need that wee bit of confidence that they need as well, that you will be able to point them in the right direction. You will be able to, create the resources and stuff. There's loads of stuff out there to use.
Yeah, and obviously you guys at STACS Advanced Higher have created quite a lot of resources over the last couple of years, so we'll definitely make sure to tag some of that on the space so people can see it. Yeah. So my next question was, I suppose you've maybe gone into this a little bit already, but what this could kind of go from National 5 into higher and higher into Advanced Higher. What kind of key skills? So I've said kind of before, what scores would you like the Advanced Higher kids to have? But I suppose what I'm thinking about now is, what key skills are you looking for someone to say, actually, you would be really good at Advanced Higher? Because sometimes you could spot a kid in second year and say, you would be really good. Do you know what I mean? And there's that something there. So could you kind of put that into words for us? What do you think the key skills are that are important for the kids who want to progress through the computing science subjects?
So I would definitely say your key skills are going to be your computational thinking, your problem solving, decomposition, and resilience. We need that resilience for the projects, because if they get stuck, they need to be able to, we say walk the quad, my school's built in a quad, walk the quad, they go for a walk, they come back, and they need to be able to come back and get into fixing whatever's going wrong. Funnily enough, today I asked my students, and at this time of the year, I said, what do you think is your key skill? And about half of them said time management. So as they're
Really, there's something to be said there, though.
absolutely being able to plan that project and stick to that plan that they made way back at the beginning, there's a lot to be said for it. Again, main skill, of course, is problem solving, isn't it? They need to be able to break that problem down because they've not really done that at National 5 and higher. They've done little bits of analysis, they've done little bits of design, and this is the first time where they're having to build a complete project by themselves. And of course, that's linked in with their computational thinking, being able to create their algorithms, think logically about how it's all working. But just based on what we just spoke about, and it's popped into my head, is confidence. The pupils need to have confidence that they're going to be able to achieve, that they're going to be able to come up against something and they're going to be able to fix it. They're expected to write much more complex programs. They're expected to be able to debug their own solutions, and they need to develop the confidence to know that coding isn't as scary as what we think it is. And we often talk about the big code question at the end of paper one, and we know through marking that they just need the confidence to try it, because see, when they try that question, we get amazing results, we get amazing answers, but often pupils just avoid it.
Yeah.
And we don't want them to that, because they do pick up, you know, they access the marks when they give those questions a try. And like I said before, perseverance and resilience.
Yeah, I think that's a really big one. And it'll obviously be good for a lot of other subjects, but I think in computing science, it really is prevalent sort of thing. So, because it's just the nature of the assessments and stuff, especially the open book ones. Yeah. Okay, so I want to finish off with a bit of a quirky question, and it's to do with I'm thinking of some of my kids this year. You know, I've got a good bunch of higher kids, and some of them are moving on to national to advanced higher. Some of them are not, for various different reasons. And you know, we've had a lot of conversations with kids and parents who've said, you know, we do want to do advanced higher because we're going to be going on to do cybersecurity, you know, at university, or ethical hacking, or whatever, computing science. And obviously, some kids will say, oh, I'm not going to do advanced higher computing because I don't want to do computing at uni. And we know, obviously, a lot of the transferable skills that come from computing science in general. But my question was sort of like, what kind of conversation do you have with kids around if they're considering progression to advanced higher? You know, what's the pros and cons, basically? Because there might be reasons to not do it as well, but what are the kind of pros and cons in the conversation you have with the kids around that, would you say?
We go back to the skills, don't you? You go back to the problem solving skills. What are they going to be writing in their UCAS? What are those key skills that they're writing down? And you're bringing that back to what it is that you will get from computing from there that they need to be able to say that they can do, and what they can give evidence for in that UCAS statement. We don't often have that conversation at St Kent's, because there is an expectation that you will go all the way through to advanced higher, and we've worked hard to have that expectation, which is why we get the big numbers. But making them understand that technology underpins absolutely everything that they're going to do, so having that background is really important. And even if they don't go on to be software developers, having an understanding of how systems work when they're out there. I often see the video, I don't know if you've ever seen it, and it's the one with will.i.am talking about, it's an amazing video, and basically he was trying to get music to do something and he couldn't get it to work, and he was working, obviously he does a lot with software, and he was talking with the developers and they weren't understanding each other, so he started learning how to code so that he could then better have conversations with developers. And that is a brilliant video to inspire pupils to really think about doing computing. And at the same time, you know, you encourage the pupils to think about whether or not they enjoy the type of thinking that comes with computing science. And so that if they're going to go to university and they're going to be tackling challenge problems and building solutions, then computing is perhaps going to give them that step in the right direction to help them with it. But, you know, if a pupil is more interested in using the technology rather than understanding how it works, then again, you know, just be honest with the pupil and just give them the best advice that you can.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, actually, really powerful. And I think the open nature of the project actually really prepares the kids who are going to university for any kind, you know, like dissertations and things, taking that project from a start to an end. It's a lot bigger than a lot of the other advanced projects you might get in physics or biology and things. You know, it's a lot bigger, that task.
What's really good as well now, If you do a database major, then you can always tie that into whatever else you're interested in. You can look at, I'm interested in music, I'm interested in biology, there's other things I'm interested in, and you know, more so probably with a database major, you can come up with a project that will really be what you're interested in.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably quite similar to data science, actually, in that respect. Well, fantastic. So we've talked about an awful lot here. So let's go and have a look across and see how our teams are doing with their challenge. Okay, so Colin, you were given database design development. So do you want to chat us through your error messages and what you've come up with?
Yeah, so I had a couple of Access ones and a MySQL one. So the first one is about an insert query, and the error message is along the lines of the number of query values and destination fields are not the same. So basically what's gone wrong there is you've tried to insert too many values or not enough values in relation to the number of fields that are in the table. So how do you fix it? Go back to your table, look how many fields you've got, look how many values you're trying to insert, and then try again. For message 2, again, it kind of focused on an insert query, the error message, duplicate entry FW05 for key primary. So that's telling you that that primary key is already in use. So you can't use it again, it won't be unique. So check the data in the database, make sure that that primary key is already used, and then maybe try your insert query again, but with a different primary key this time. So those were kind of Nat 5 ones. Number 3 was a higher one. So this time the error message from Access was can't have aggregate function where clause. That's basically saying you can't use an aggregate function in a where. Okay. And then how you're going to solve that problem if you're at higher, either you're going to have to do 2 separate queries, or if you've kind of gone a wee bit into the world of advanced higher, then you might try it with a subquery to try and figure out or try and fix that particular error message.
Fantastic. Okay, and let's head across and see what Morag has created for the software section.
Well, I've gone for VB rather than Python, because Python I can read it, but I'm not good at necessarily creating it. So I've gone for VB.net. I've got 1 N5 and 2 higher, but there's any range of them that I could have used. So I've gone N5 one. Index was outside the bounds of array, which basically means that try to use an array element that doesn't actually exist. So go back, how to fix it, go back and check your array, look at your demo statement, and that will tell you what your largest array index is. Message 2, field name is not a member of the structure name. And basically what's happened here is the candidate has used a field name which actually isn't part of the record structure that was defined at the start of the module. So the way to fix that is to go back up to the top of the module and check actually what field names have been used, because it could simply be a typing error. That's usually the most common error. Check the field names, check the spellings, edit the code, and see if that works. The third message, the third error message I've got also is a higher one. Too many arguments to private sub, whatever the sub name is. So this is a procedure call which has used too many actual parameters and therefore doesn't match the number of formal parameters in the procedure definition. So the way to fix it, well, you would need to go and look at check the number of actual and formal parameters. They must match. Check your procedure definition and go back to your procedure call and make sure you match them in sequence and in number. There you go.
Nice. I quite like how you've laid out with what it means and how to fix it, because I think that could be really, like, you could make a module of that, you know, like a little module library for the kids of all the error messages, or they can make their own.
Yeah, you could do a little poster or a quick reference or something like that, yeah.
Anyway, it's not up to me, so let's go over to Debbie and see what she thinks. Okay, Debbie, over to you. What do you think about our ideas?
Well, I've got problems here, right? Number 1, I like Colin's because he had wee screenshots of it, but I liked the way that Morag laid those 2 out, and I liked how there was a nice the wee symbols. So I don't know. Can we take the two of them and put them together?
You can, but it doesn't count for the scores.
Oh no, who's the winner so far?
Oh, we're not allowed to do that.
I don't know. I will go with, I don't know, this is hard. I will go with Morag because I like the wee bits down the bottom. I really like them. Colin's going to hate me forever.
I don't think he's going to hate you forever.
But,
So,
but
I created the screenshots anyway, so it's
I like the screenshots were really nice and effective.
yeah.
But I
I
like
suppose
that.
Morags would be easy to update if you were using, Visual Studio or something. You could easily update them with actual screenshots too, I suppose.
the screenshots are there. They're just too big to fit the wee space on it.
But I
Yeah.
do think like the way that's laid out, see making a whole bunch of those cards in your class,
Mm-hmm.
where you can buy the flip cards that you get from Asda, see sticking them on them and having them in the class, and children can go and find the errors.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant.
Something you think of, why do we not do this already, isn't it? And it's just
So obvious.
I know.
Tight and so obvious.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's head over to the scores and the doors and see where we are now with episode 10. You'll be pleased with this, Debbie.
Oh,
So
no.
that brings us to episode 10, and our scores are 5-5. And we promised there was no cheating. She did not know beforehand. So the scores are 5-5. Very well done. Morag has made a phenomenal comeback over the last few weeks. So in the last couple of episodes, we've got it all to play for the red team and the blue team. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Your insight has been absolutely amazing. And Colin and Morag, very well done for your challenge. And we will see you all for episode 11 next week. So I'll speak to you later, guys, and thank you from all of us. Bye now.